Okay, so you know that feeling, right? After a great workout, you get that like energy buzz. But have you ever stopped to think like, is this doing something even deeper? you know, something beyond just like building muscles or getting my cardio in. Like, could my workout routine actually be like messing with how my body ages, like at the cellular level?
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Like, that isn't it?
Totally. So today we're diving deep into this idea of a cellular clock that everyone talks about.
It's kind of how our bodies change over time at like the tiniest level.
Right. And the big question we're tackling is this. Does the type of workout you do actually make a difference in like slowing down that clock or not? We've got some fascinating research to unpack, and we promise to keep it super clear and easy to understand no matter your science background.
For sure. We don't want to bog you down with jargon or complicated study designs or anything like that.
Exactly. So think of this as your cheat sheet to understanding what the latest science says about exercise and aging.
So to kick things off, we've got a few key pieces of research we want to walk through. First up, we took a look at a massive overview. They call it an umbrella review and meta-analysis, which sounds super complicated, but really it's just a way of summarizing a ton of different studies on one topic.
Like a super Cliff's Notes version of a whole scientific field.
Exactly. And this one was focused on the effect of physical exercise on telomere length.
Okay, so telomeres, those are important, right?
Absolutely. They're like a key marker of aging at that cellular level we were talking about.
Gotcha. So this review gave us a big picture view of how exercise and those telomere things are connected.
Precisely. Then we wanted to get a bit more specific, so we looked at a randomized controlled trial, which is like a gold standard type of experiment. This one was called High-Intensity Interval Training Reduces Transcriptomic Age. They basically wanted to see what happens when you compare doing short bursts of intense exercise versus just, chilling and not exercising.
So this is where we get into those super efficient workouts everyone's raving about.
Yeah. HIIT. And this study measured its impact on something called transcriptomic age, which is another way to assess like how old your body actually is versus just going by your birth date.
Right, because like you can be 50 years old, but your cells might be acting like they're 40 or 60, right?
Exactly. So that's transcriptomic age in a nutshell.
Cool. And just to round things out, we also looked at a review article called Regular Intense Exercise Training as a Healthy Aging Lifestyle Strategy. This one steps back to look at the big picture, exploring how intense exercise might protect your DNA from those pesky age-related changes.
And that includes those telomeres we keep mentioning because as we age, they tend to shorten, and that's not ideal.
Okay, so for everyone listening, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to walk away from this deep dive with practical knowledge you can actually use to make decisions about your own health and fitness.
We're all about actionable insights here. No need to
Yeah.
become a scientist to understand this stuff.
Agreed. So let's jump right in. First things first. What are telomeres, and why should we care about them when we're talking about aging?
Okay, so imagine those chromosomes you learned about in biology class, the ones that hold all your DNA. Now picture them like shoelaces.
Okay, I'm picturing shoelaces.
Perfect. The little plastic tips at the end of those laces, those are your telomeres. They're made of repeating bits of DNA, and their job is to protect the ends of your chromosomes from fraying or getting all messed up.
So they're like bodyguards for our DNA.
Precisely. Now, every time a cell in your body divides, those telomeres get a little shorter. It's just a natural part of life. But here's the thing. If those telomeres get too short, the cell might stop dividing. Or even worse, it could die.
So that's why shorter telomeres are linked to aging. It's like the cells are losing their protective shields.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That can have knock-on effects throughout the body.
Okay, that makes sense. No, I also kept seeing this word telomerase while I was researching this. What is that all about?
So telomerase is pretty cool. It's an enzyme that can actually rebuild and lengthen those telomeres we were just talking about.
Wait, so it's like a telomere repair crew?
You could say that. It's more active in certain cells that divide frequently, like stem cells. But for most of our regular cells, telomerase activity is pretty low.
Interesting. So if we could find ways to like boost telomerase in our everyday cells, could that maybe help keep our telomeres longer? And wouldn't that be like the key to slowing down the cellular aging process?
Now you're thinking like a scientist. That's definitely a hot area of research. There's a lot of interest in figuring out if we can manipulate telomerase to our advantage.
It would be amazing if we could like hack our telomeres to stay younger, longer. Okay, so we talked about telomere length, and then you mentioned transcriptomic age earlier. Can you remind me again how that's different from just regular old age?
Sure. Chronological age is just a measure of how many years you've been alive, right? That's based on your birth date. Transcriptomic age is a bit more nuanced. It looks at which genes are switched on or off inside your cells. It's like a snapshot of your cell's activity.
Okay, so it's not about how long you've been alive, but more about how your cells are behaving right now.
Exactly. And these patterns of gene activity can actually predict how old your cells are acting, which might be different from your chronological age. So you could be 50 years old, but your transcriptomic age might say your cells are behaving like they're 45 or even 55.
Wow, so it's like a measure of your biological age versus just the number of candles on your birthday cake.
Exactly. It gives us a different perspective on aging. So looking at both telomere length and transcriptomic age can give us a more complete picture of how exercise might be influencing how we age at the cellular level.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's get into the specifics of those studies we mentioned, starting with that huge umbrella review on exercise and telomere length. What were the main takeaways?
Well, the first thing to keep in mind is that this review looked at a ton of studies that had already been done on the topic. And the overall conclusion was that there does seem to be a link between exercise and telomere length. But the evidence isn't totally rock solid yet. It's not a simple yes or no answer.
So it's like we're seeing a signal, but we need more research to be totally sure.
Exactly. But when they dug deeper into specific types of exercise, some interesting trends did emerge.
Oh, that's what I was hoping for. So tell me more about what they found.
Let's start with aerobic exercise.
Yeah.
Things like running, swimming brisk, walking, that kind of thing.
Got it. The stuff that gets your heart rate up.
Exactly.
Mm.
So the review found that aerobic exercise was, quote, consistently associated with longer telomeres. That's pretty encouraging.
Definitely. So all those miles I'm logging might actually be helping my cells stay young.
It's looking that way. And some studies even show that people who regularly do aerobic exercise have higher levels of that telomerase enzyme we were talking about, the one that can help rebuild those telomeres.
Wow. So it's like aerobic exercise is giving our telomeres a double boost, both protecting them and helping to repair them. That's awesome.
It is pretty cool.
Okay, so that's aerobic exercise. What about strength training? Does lifting weights have any impact on telomere length?
It seems so. The review suggested that resistance training might also be good for telomeres, but possibly in a slightly different way.
Oh, how so?
Well, it seems like resistance training might help by reducing things like oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. These are processes that can contribute to telomere shortening.
Ah, so it's like strength training is creating a more favorable environment for our cells to thrive in.
Exactly. It's not just about building muscle, it's about supporting cellular health too.
I like it. Now, what about that super trendy HII everyone's talking about? What did the review say about high-intensity interval training?
This is where things get particularly interesting, especially if you're pressed for time. The review highlighted some recent research suggesting that HIA may be more effective in preserving TL compared with low to moderate intensity exercises.
Whoa, hold up. So you're saying those short bursts of intense exercise might be better for our telomeres than just going for a casual jog?
That's what some of the research is pointing towards. The idea is that those short but intense bursts of activity trigger more powerful changes within our cells that could lead to better telomere protection.
Interesting. So it's like our cells are responding to that go hard or go home approach.
In a way, yeah. But before you go ditching your long runs, it's important to note that the review also highlighted some things to keep in mind. It's not just about the type of exercise you do.
Right. I was about to ask about that. Like, isn't everyone's body different?
Absolutely. They emphasize that tons of other factors can influence your telomere length that have nothing to do with how often you hit the gym. Things like your genetics, your sex, even your ethnicity can play a role.
Okay, so our DNA blueprint kind of sets the stage for how our telomeres behave.
Right. And then, of course, there are lifestyle choices that can make a big difference, too.
Ah, yeah. I bet things like smoking and diet have a big impact.
You got it. Smoking, drinking too much alcohol, being overweight, all those were linked to shorter telomeres. And even chronic stress can take a toll, possibly, by increasing cellular damage.
Oh, stress is the worst. So it sounds like exercise is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to keeping those telomeres healthy.
Exactly. It's about the whole picture.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about that study that specifically looked at HIIT and transcriptomic age. Can you walk me through how they set up that experiment?
Sure. So they recruited a group of adults between the ages of 40 and 65 who weren't regular exercisers.
So like everyday folks, not marathon runners or anything.
Exactly. They then randomly assigned some of them to do HIIT for 4 weeks, while the others continued with their usual non-exercising routine.
So it was a head-to-head comparison of HIIT versus doing nothing.
Precisely.
And what did the HIIT routine actually involve? Like how intense was it?
It was actually designed to be pretty efficient. It started with a 2-minute warm-up and ended with a 2-minute cool-down. And in between those, they did 10 one-minute bursts of really intense exercise, aiming for about 77 to 93% of their maximum heart rate.
Okay. That's pretty intense. Like you wouldn't be able to chat with your workout buddy during those bursts.
Haha, nope. And after each intense minute, they got a 1-minute rest period. The whole thing, including warm-up and cool-down, only took about 23 minutes.
Wow. So it's like a supercharged workout you can squeeze into your lunch break. I like it.
Right, and they mix things up using different equipment, like rowing machines, stationary bikes, treadmills, to keep it interesting.
Nice variety. So what happened? Did this short burst of HIIT actually make a difference in their transcriptomic age?
It did, and the results were pretty impressive. The group doing HIIT showed a significant decrease in their transcriptomic age. After just 4 weeks, their gene activity patterns were actually looking biologically younger.
No way. So it's like their cells were turning back the clock just from this short HIIT workout.
That's what the data suggests. And the group that didn't exercise? Well, their transcriptomic age actually increased over the same period.
Oh, wow. So it's like they were aging faster just by not doing HIIT.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the researchers also looked at something called transcriptomic age acceleration, which is basically the difference between your transcriptomic age and your chronological age. And they found significant differences between the two groups, meaning that HIIT was shifting that biological age marker in a more youthful direction.
That's super encouraging. Okay, but were there any other changes in the HIIT group besides that transcriptomic age thing?
Yeah, they actually found a few other interesting things. The HIIT group also experienced a decrease in body fat, their BMI, and even that visceral fat, which is the kind that wraps around your organs and is linked to a bunch of health problems.
Ah, so HIIT is a triple threat. Good for your heart, your waistline, and your cellular age.
It's shaping up that way. They also reported improvements in mood and sleep. So it wasn't just about physical changes, they were feeling better overall.
Makes sense. Exercise is such a mood booster.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've seen that HIIT can have some pretty amazing effects, but how is it actually working its magic at the cellular level? Did the study look into that?
They did. They analyzed which genes were being affected by the HIIT and found that it was influencing genes involved in some really key processes related to aging.
Oh, that's fascinating. Like what kind of processes?
Well, one of them was autophagy, which is basically like your cell's internal cleaning system. It helps to clear out damaged components and keep things running smoothly.
Ah, so it's like taking out the cellular trash.
Exactly. HIIT also seemed to influence pathways related to cancer and signaling molecules that help keep your nervous system healthy. All super important for healthy aging, right?
Absolutely. So it sounds like HIIT is triggering some pretty powerful mechanisms that could help us live longer and healthier lives.
That's the idea. And the study also made a point of highlighting how widespread sedentary behavior is these days.
Right, like everyone's glued to their screens.
Yep. They pointed out that a huge chunk of the global population isn't getting enough physical activity. And they suggested that HIIT could be a really valuable and efficient way to address this problem and reap some serious health benefits.
I mean, if you can get all those benefits in just 23 minutes, sign me up. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground on HIIT. What about that other review article we mentioned, the one that looked at intense exercise as a strategy for healthy aging? What else did they have to say?
They offered a few additional insights that are worth mentioning. For example, they highlighted that endurance athletes, those folks who are logging tons of miles or hours in the pool, tend to have higher expression of genes related to telomere maintenance.
Ah, so all that cardio is paying off at the genetic level?
It seems so. And they also tend to have more of that telomerase enzyme we talked about.
Yeah.
So it really reinforces the idea that regular aerobic exercise can be beneficial for telomere health.
Got it. Now, remember you mentioned earlier that there's a difference between how our bodies respond to a single intense workout versus training regularly over a long period of time. Did they elaborate on that in this article?
They did. That's actually still an area where scientists are actively researching and trying to understand all the nuances. Some studies have shown that a single bout of intense exercise might actually cause a temporary increase in telomere length, or at least boost some of those protective factors.
Interesting. So like a quick hit of exercise could give our telomeres a temporary boost.
Exactly. But on the flip side, they also noted that really extreme or prolonged exercise could actually put temporary stress on the cells, which might not be ideal in the long run.
So it's like everything in moderation, right? Pushing yourself is good, but maybe don't go overboard all the time.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot. And another thing they emphasized was that it's actually really hard to study the long-term impact of exercise on actual telomere shortening in humans.
Why is that?
Because telomeres shorten so gradually over many years, it's really challenging to design studies that can definitively isolate the effects of exercise on that specific process. It take a really long time and a lot of resources.
That makes sense. It's like trying to measure the erosion of a mountain over a few decades.
Exactly. So that's why a lot of the research focuses on those more immediate markers like telomerase activity or changes in gene expression, because those things can change more quickly and are easier to measure.
Gotcha. So it's like we're using those markers as proxies for what's probably happening with the telomeres over time.
Exactly. And one more interesting thing they pointed out was that there's often a noticeable difference between people who exercise regularly and those who don't when it comes to telomere health.
Oh, really? Tell me more about that.
They noted that individuals who are consistently active often show better telomere maintenance and have longer telomeres compared to those who are more sedentary.
So it's like all those years of working out are adding up to some serious cellular benefits.
It seems that way. But it wasn't all good news for every type of intense exercise. They mentioned some interesting findings related to athletes who specialize in very anaerobic activities.
Anaerobic. Remind me what that means again.
It basically means exercise that relies on short bursts of energy without using oxygen, like sprinting or weightlifting.
Got it. So what did they find about those athletes?
Well, some research on elite athletes who primarily do these types of activities didn't always show significant differences in their telomere length compared to non-athletes.
So it's like maybe extremely high intensity without a strong endurance component might not have the same impact on telomeres.
That's one possible interpretation.
So it's like maybe you need a mix of both high intensity and endurance training to get the best of both worlds.
That's a good hypothesis. And one last thing they highlighted was that the effects of exercise on telomeres might not be the same across all the different types of cells in your body.
Oh, interesting. So like what you do might affect your blood cells differently than your muscle cells?
Exactly. And that's another area where more research is needed to get a clearer and more detailed understanding.
Wow, this is so complex. Okay, so I'm trying to pull this all together for our listeners. What are the main takeaways from all this research on exercise and cellular aging?
Okay, here are a few key points to remember. First, it looks like the type of exercise you do can influence how your cells age. And it might do so through different mechanisms. It's not just about moving your body, it's about how you move it.
So like choosing the right type of workout could make a real difference.
Exactly. Secondly, aerobic exercise, that steady-state cardio we talked about, seems to be really good for maintaining longer telomeres and boosting the enzyme that helps protect them.
So all you runners, cyclists, swimmers out there, keep up the good work. It's paying off at the cellular level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Third, don't underestimate the power of resistance training. While it might work through slightly different pathways like reducing cellular stress, it also seems to offer benefits for telomere length.
So those weightlifting sessions are doing more than just building muscle. They're helping to keep your cells young too.
And fourth, HIIT is looking really promising, particularly when it comes to potentially making your gene expression profile look younger. It also seems to be quite effective at preserving telomeres, possibly even more so than moderate intensity exercise. But of course, more research is always being done to confirm and refine these findings.
Awesome. Okay, and lastly, let's not forget that exercise is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. Our genes, our lifestyle habits like diet and smoking, and even our stress levels all play a role in how our cells age. It's about taking a holistic approach to health.
Absolutely. It's about making smart choices in all areas of your life. And the exciting thing is that this is a very active area of research, so we can expect to learn even more in the future about the best ways to exercise for long-term cellular health.
So stay tuned for more exciting discoveries.
Definitely. So here's something to ponder as you're wrapping up your workout today. Based on what we've discussed, how might you tweak your own exercise habits to potentially support your cellular health? And what new questions does this spark for you about the long-term effects of different types of physical activity on the aging process?
It's definitely a lot to think about. And if any of this has piqued your interest, we encourage you to check out the research studies we mentioned or have a chat with your doctor to see how you can apply this knowledge to your own life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you.